What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video on Car Talks 100. Before I continue the video, just wanted to thank those that have subscribed and have been engaged. Absolutely love it. Please keep bringing the feedback. Those that haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, but do watch my videos, please go ahead and subscribe. It just helps me, one, to come to new dealers and bring more brands and have more cars as an option on the channel, and we can continue growing that. With that being said, great shout out and a huge one to McGrath Acura of Westmont here in Chicago, Illinois, for lending me this car to do the review. If you're in the Chicagoland area or anywhere near it, come check these folks out. I'll let you know what person to go to if you comment below, and then they'll hook you up with an Acura. What are we looking at? We're looking at something historic that is now in the future and current state, which is the Acura Integra. First came out in 1986, then we had ILX, which then took over basically in the same segment, and now this again succeeded over the ILX. We're looking at the Apex Blue paint. Let's do a 360 and then we'll come back to the front and talk about what do we have. As we are going around, this being an A-SPEC model, this one stickers in the middle of the lineup. There is 3 trim levels that are offered before you go into the Type S, really. So you've got the Integra, the base is just called Integra, from my knowledge. Then you have the Integra A-SPEC, which is this one. Then you have the Integra A-SPEC with technology package. That last package is the top of the line before you get into Type S, which gives you things like ELS sound system, that gives you like rain sensing wipers, things like that. This, my anticipation and knowing the numbers, this probably will be the most common selling one and is the trim level when it comes to, one, the price it stickers in at, and 2, it gives you the looks, but it also doesn't break the bank there. And then lastly, you would have the Type S. So coming up to the front, this does obviously look like the modern day Acura. You've got that diamond grille that spins off from the Acura emblem where your sensing sits. Your headlights are full LED. Acura's been doing full LED headlights for a very long time. You have your turn signals and the DRLs there. Down below, the A-SPEC and models up from that give you the fog lights, functional vents there. If you go with the base model, it does not give you fog lights. Nothing else to mention. This car doesn't really have parking sensors here. My assumption is if you go to the with technology package, the one that comes after, probably does give you the parking sensors. And then I think because we're talking about Integra and integrations, I don't know if you guys can see, but the Integra is basically embossed, integrated rather, into the bumper, both front and rear, which I think is a cool feature. Above that is the hood, what is under the hood. This particular one is 1.5 liter CVT engine. I'll get to the cool thing about A-SPEC here, which does compare to, let's say, the Civic Si. Here you can choose between the CVT, which is the automatic gearbox, or a stick shift 6-speed manual transmission. So if you're looking at Civic Si, I highly encourage you to come take a look at this too. Just so if you really want something automatic, depending on your commute and what have you, you can compare these two, because it does give you the option of going with a stick shift and or a CVT. Producing 200 horsepower and about 192 pound-feet of torque. And then you can go up to the Type S, which is 320 horsepower, and that is going to be your stick shift there. Again, I mentioned the blue paint, which is $600 extra. All paints are going to be an upcharge except the lunar silver, which is for free. Everything else would be $600. Another thing to mention, back then when ILX was in production and on the roads, people would typically say, which was true, that it's basically a Civic underneath. However, it's changed for these model years, the 24s and onward. It doesn't even share the sheet metal, so the quality does look different when parked next to a Civic. As we go in, there will be some shared elements to an extent, because at the end of the day, they are cousins, essentially, but under the hood and or the body style, everything is basically non-Civic. It's Acura exclusive for that matters. As we zoom into the wheels, these are the Shark Gray wheels. We're riding at around 235/40 R18. I do really like the shark gray that Acura does on their alloys, and it does look really nice. It's not a black, it's not a silver, it's just the right, I think, color that goes pretty much with every exterior paint choice there. You have the A-SPEC badging here, so this is A-SPEC, like I said, but non-technology. So there will be a few things here and there that you'll notice that you get if you go up in the price point. This one's stickers. We'll talk about the sticker at the very end, and then you folks decide whether it's worth it or not. Around the side, you basically, I don't think it looks like a Civic essentially, but if there is a TLX, there is one parked, but that's a Type S, so it looks different, but kind of does look somewhat similar to, especially the side, the way the lines kind of go and curve around. At first, when I looked at the design of this, you know how the Accord, the current generation Accord, in the front it's very bland, and then in the back it gets a little better. Here it's the opposite, and it took me a while to get used to it. In the front, this is very beautiful. In the back, it just felt like it could have had a little more substance there. But as you keep looking at the car, it gets just better. The more you see it, the more you kind of accept it because it's there. On the side, you don't really get the integrated turn signals, but you do get the two-tone here with black matte at the bottom, and then your gloss paint, body paint color there. The car does have sunroof, standard size, which is fine. The sticker is here. We'll come back to that as we wrap around the back. The keyless entry is only in the front, not in the back. And then as we curve around the back, this is what I was talking to you. Though it looks really nice, it's a cool looking car, just a very different styling. But I feel like the proportion, because it's a hatchback, it's slightly different than the front. I am very glad because this is a regular non-hybrid, non-electric car. You've got single exhaust on both sides, making a dual exhaust overall. And then you've got, you know, the fake diffuser simulation going on over there, which is fine. The sun is really glary today, so I hope you guys can see it. But otherwise, it's fairly nice, though the backup camera sits here, and it does not have a washer, so it's going to get grimy, and you would have to kind of take care of it in terms of cleaning. From here, this is that Integra integration that I was talking about. So overall, it's grown on me now. I like it a lot more than I first saw it, just like how all the other cars are, just like how, you know, my own Accord is. In the front, it's bland, but then it gets used to. You've got the A-SPEC badging, you got the decklet spoiler here. It's subtle, but it's also protrudes to an extent, so you kind of like that. Then there is the top-mounted brake light with, I don't know, I don't think it's called a spoiler, but it does, if you folks can see, just part of the styling here. You have the rear windshield, and then you have this patch, and then where the trunk basically opens, all of that. This car actually has more cargo room than the TLX, as I was told. So 24.5 cubic feet. It's not automatic up, so there is just a release button, and then you kind of lift it so you could see it's got hydraulics. It will eventually go up, but it doesn't go automatic up. I also was trying to figure out what this button's for, so do let me know. Maybe it's lock unlock. This doesn't, I thought it would shut the trunk, but it hasn't been doing it for me. Looking at the trunk itself, when seats up, it's still got a nice enough room. Assumption is from visualizing 2 carry-on straight and a duffel, and or your club bag. For that, you really would have to fold the seats down because it's a 60-40 split, so that is nice. For that, you would have to go in the front, or if you are tall enough with your arms reach, you could basically unlatch it here and falls. There is no automatic button for that. This one does not have the ELS Studio. If you go for the Tech Pack, it gives you 16 speakers, so the car would be really good when it comes to the speakers, but the audio is just fair right now too. It's good enough. This is not a hybrid, but you don't get the spare tire. You get the fixer flat kit, and then I believe those two are reserved just for your cleaning cloths or something like that. Otherwise, you have the load cover here. I wonder if I can push it down from the inside. From the outside, I can't. You've got 2 grab handles, thinking that it's going to be a heavy trunk, but it's not. So you can literally just, it's actually super light trunk. So that's kind of cool. Going into the front, we'll go into the front first, and then we'll come to the back. You have the keyless entry. Let me show you how the Acura fob looks like. The car does have blind spot monitoring. This is how the current Acura fob is. Acura emblem is hidden under the dealer sticker, but it does say Acura off to the side here as well. And then your typical lock unlock trunk. I don't understand trunks on these because it doesn't unlatch. You have to still push the button down to get inside. Dead easy. It's keyless, so keep that in your pocket and go from there. This is where it gets Civic-y. The reason I say that is the material quality, I'm guessing, does differ, but there are some shared parts. So as soon as you open the door panel, this looks very much like a Honda, be it Civic, be it the Accord of current generation, and you can kind of see those elements carrying over because you somehow have to cut the cost, and I don't zonk Acura for that. But if you have looked at the Civic, or you are looking at the Civic, driving one, and you're wanting to move to Integra, on the inside you might very well feel like it's a Civic to an extent, except that you're staring at an Acura emblem as opposed to a Honda. To the door panel, Civic. This is straight from Civic, I do believe. Then down here, you have very similar trajectory of things. Auto 2 down, no power folding mirrors here, nothing of that sort. And then you've got this silver accent running across its plastic, but it looks cool, kind of contrasts with the black here, and then your inserts there. Overall, the door panel is fine, very similar to the car this size. Just keep in mind, this is where you can kind of step into the sport, compact, luxury style-ish, what have you, for the price it stickers in at and gives you that kind of fun in driving, because now Acuras are basically FUN fun as opposed to being Hondas underneath, which was the case with, let's say, the previous ILX sharing the platform with the Civic, TLX sharing the platform with the Accord. Things have changed now. Looking at the power seats here too, I forgot if the other one's power or not, but we'll check it out. I do believe it is. Here, what I do like for the A-Spec is the aluminum paddle, but what I don't like is the dead pedal not being aluminum. For the CVT, it might not matter as much because you're really only, using the two side there. You don't really care about the dead pedal. But when you get into A-Spec stick shift, that dead pedal is still black or rubber, and you've got then your clutch, brake, and gas there. So it would have been nice to have that dead pedal as a aluminum, because in Accords or on the Honda lineup, they do give you a dead pedal, even though they don't offer, let's say, a stick shift in the Accord, but they do in the Civic. As we climb inside, before we do, you can kind of see how the inside looks, very much Civic-like, and as we step inside, you could kind of see the seating height is nice because it's slow. If we go ahead and start the engine, the engine does sound nice. This is a 1.5 liter. A few differences from the Civic to this one would really be, here you have the full gauge cluster that is digital as opposed to semi-digital that you get in the Civic. Otherwise, nothing extraordinary to mention. Graphics here are exactly the same as on the Honda products that are fully digital. So not the best, but also not the worst. It's fine. I think it would have been nicer if they made the actual, like the glass maybe a little more glossy or something to give the impression that the graphics inside are rather more crisp. But hey, this is what it is. That's fine. Coming from here, a few things you'll notice about the vents. They do have the honeycomb style. They have the same shift knob, but here, unlike the Civic, you get the silver accent to differentiate. Here you have your traction on-off, and then the blank switch there. I'm assuming that would be reserved for, let's say, a power gate on the next spec. My assumption is that. Otherwise, you get paddle shifters on the steering. The steering is dead identical to of the Hondas, except that you have the Acura emblem here and then the A-Spec badging. It is not a bottom flat. It is still round. Very much identical to Honda. No change in the material or the product. You do have nice stitching going on here. I don't know if you folks can see it. That does look nice, and you have the same stitching going on around the seats, which we'll get to. Infotainment system looks straight out of Civic or the LXEX Accord, or even Pilot has slightly different. The only issue that I have with this is the fact that it's black and white. So if we go to home or menu, this is black and white. It doesn't get color, which I think is the point of being able to cut costs and still give people. So if this is something important to you, that this be color, I'm telling you this is not. It's black and white, but it does have the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capabilities, so most of the time you'd be looking at that. So shouldn't be that much of a problem, but just so you folks know, it's almost identical as to what would be in a CR-V EX, LX, or Accord, so on and so forth. Here, it gets similar, but not exactly, because you could see it's sharing the same vent style as, actually this is sharing more so like the Accord, because it's diamond or hexagonal as opposed to honeycomb, but you could see it doesn't basically carry it over from here on to the next one. So there is this material. It's not piano, which is good, but it's also not just a flat plastic. There is some texture to it. You could probably hear it as I scratch over it. Injection molded plastic here on the dash, no leather there, the plastic here, and then this is all leather trim, so which is nice, but it does get plasticky here as we go down. Overall, the cabin is nice. You get two color choices on the interior for this paint, which is one we're sitting in black and the other one would be white, known as Orchid. The only color that gives you three interior options would be the white paint on the outside. That gives you the option of going with either the black interior, a white interior, or a red interior on the A-SPEC model. Every other color pretty much gives you the choices of two, be it black, be it white, or be it, I don't think there's a gray one offered, I could be wrong. Coming back to the front, because I think I missed this, standard, you're similar to how it would be in the Honda products. You have heated seats, but not ventilated, which they could have given. I don't know if it is in the technology, but I highly doubt, because I don't see a blank switch there, because otherwise it would be either here or there. These two are blank here. Down below, kind of disappointed to see only a USB-A, no USB-C in the front. You have the 12 volt there. And then there's no wireless charging on this particular model. You do get, I think, that in technology package. Up here, this is your CVT. Here, 1.5 liter, producing 200 horsepower there. The engine itself, the car is nice and jolty for what it is and for the price point it comes under. You could compare this car with, let's say, the Mazda 3 there. This one does basically blow it out of the landslide when it comes to the cargo spaces in two places. The rear passenger space and the trunk, but Mazda 3 is an option. Then you have the Civic Si that you can also keep as an option, if you will, when you are looking at the A-SPEC, or if then you want to blow everything out of the park, then the Type S. Here you get the three dynamic modes. You have your comfort and normal, and then sport mode if we look at the gauge cluster there. Parking brake here, and then your brake hold, and this one does have the functionality of start stop engine automatically when you're at a traffic light or hit the brake. Cup holders, kind of conservative there. They are nice because they are deep, so if this is a stick shift, I'm hoping that as you are shifting gears while your elbow rests here, it won't hinder, but just know that it does stick up a little bit, so I don't particularly like the positioning of this, especially if someone goes for the stick shift model, because here with the automatic, you're only really resting your palm on it, so it shouldn't really be that bad with the drinks, but I think they could reconfigure this to make it a little more practical. But otherwise, they're fairly shallow, they're small, they're not squared like Accords or like Honda products, they're round. Here, you have decently padded center console here, but it's not too padded. Down below, this is rather small, but it's okay, this is a small car. As we exit the front, let's just talk about the seat and their comfort. This is leather. I don't know if this is vegan leather, if this is leatherette, what this may be. It is leather-like, let's just say that. Seats are comfortable enough for the class it comes under. You have nice hugs around, so if you go for, let's say, the sport trim, the stick shift trim level, you would probably be in your seat as you go curve around the bends and what have you. Overall, as we look around and we wrap up, you do get the sunroof up here in the A-SPEC, and I do believe you get that in your standard too. Still no Honda Link or Acura Link, if that's what they called. You have your typical sun visor here. It's rather long and big with one light, kind of zonky because it's not LED. That's a shame, because Honda products does give you LED and then your mirror. So, but then again, you know, you do cut costs somehow one way or another, so that's their way of doing it. I don't blame them. We're going to turn the car off and we're going to go into the back. As we go around the back, obviously we don't get the keyless entry here, so you do have to unlock the car to get into that. The rear door panel, it's a small car, it's a small door, it's a small opening. That's all I have to say, otherwise nothing crazy to mention here. As we look around, the seat is set to my position at 5'9". As we climb inside, there is plenty of room, that's for sure, for the size of the car, right? So it's bigger than a Civic, but don't quote me on it because it's been a while since I sat in a Civic, but it does feel nice. This seat is pushed a little too back, so you don't have much room, but overall, it is rather spacious. Can't promise if it's going to be good enough for 5 people, but it is decent for at least 4 on either in-house trips, or if you are trying to go on a long road trip. Just like Civic, no cup holders. This does not have an armrest that folds down. There is a 60-40 split. Civic does too. This one doesn't have that. Since this one is more like a Civic hatch, in a way where the body style and the body designing is similar, you notice I did do a video of Civic hatch, which was actually the stick shift. You have this plastic that is basically edging into the seat here. So kind of uncomfortable when you sit on it, against it, or if you lean towards it. It's just there. I feel like that they had to do something with the pillars or what have you. But do let me know what this is for if you know that. But this is a plastic part that basically edges on both sides of the rear seats. One map pocket, no map pocket behind the driver. Cup holders, you will only be utilizing the door sills for that. No power, no air in the back for the passengers. But now they do make, actually that brings me to a point, because this has no USB-Cs whatsoever. Only one USB in the front. Very, very, very conservative on power, knowing everything is around electronics these days, be it phones or be it anything else. So just know that this car doesn't offer you much power for your things, so you would probably need multiple dongles to switch from one USB-A to USB-C, and then to be able to plug in a few of your devices. So that's something to keep in mind overall. But if you're buying it as a solo driver, then you probably don't need one too many power outlets in the car. Overall, what do I think of the car? I think it looks very sharp for the size it's at and for the price its sticker is in at. One could obviously, have different opinions, and that's totally fine, as we should. But there are some elements that you could see it shares with its parent company, but there are other elements that are completely exclusive to the Acura. I didn't talk about the safety, but the Honda sensing, which is carried over into Acura, so you get the same safety measures as the Honda does. If we look at the sticker price, this one is coming in at $33,500 there, with $600 for the Apex Blue paint. So stickering it somewhere around $35,295 pre-tax, post-destinations, because destinations here. And if we look at what is exactly added, nothing crazy that is added here. You just see the typical, so it's a 1.5 liter direct injection engine there, and then you have the standard features there. Final assembly is done in Ohio, if that is something you care about. This is assembled in the US, of course. Overall, what's my verdict on this car as we kind of close this review? I really don't have a verdict when it comes to should you go ahead and buy it. I feel like you would, if you are comparing an Integra with some other cars, go ahead and test drive them and see how you feel and what you get from these. Of course, you will get the reliability, it being, a child of Honda Motor Company. The other thing with this is, if let's say you are moving from a mainstream car, for example, you're moving from a Civic or a Honda Accord or something like that, or any other brand, and you want to step into the luxury segment that is sporty-ish or sporty-esque, maybe you can test out the Acura. Acura typically does, try to compete with Lexus, but I think Lexus is just so exclusive in and of its own that Lexus doesn't really. It can compete with other brands, and it does, but Lexus is just its own brand. I feel that people will just always buy a Lexus. Acura only has like 4 cars in the lineup. I do plan on bringing the next review of an Acura too. I just haven't decided which car I'm going to pull. But overall, Acura is a standalone. You can compare this with other brands if you will, but I still believe that Acura and Lexus don't really measure up to the German cars, because they're just fun times too, if we're talking about that. But keep this in the price point in mind. You have other options that you could go for, and then make your decision, or take that, don't go with the brand new one, take that and go for, let's say, a 2020 or a 21 TLX, maybe, if you need more space in that. But I hope this review highlights some of the things to help you figure out if you want to even look at the Acura Integra. In my opinion, I do like this car, how it looks. It's growing on me, especially in certain paint colors. It does look very sharp in the crystal black pearl. It also looks very sharp in this. This color used to be called like electric blue a while ago, but this is what it is in its beauty at the A-SPEC. Hopefully, I'll catch you folks at the next video. Until then, keep watching, take care, and again, thank you all very much for watching the review. Take care.